Hello and welcome to Math with Mrs. Havrilla. I am Mrs. Havrilla and today we are working on Unit 4, Lesson 7. In this lesson, we continued with all of the strategies that we've been practicing on multiplication, and we applied them today to word problems. So we're going to find on our homework sheet today that we have a few word problems to solve, 4 of them, and that they're broken into multiple parts. So we're just going to go ahead and get started on these word problems. Number 1 says general admission to the American Museum of Natural History is $19. All right, so that just gave me the topic to what this problem will be about. It will be about the American Museum of Natural History. Question A says, if a group of 125 students visits the museum, how much will the group's tickets cost? Well, I'm going to go ahead and underline the fact that I have 125 students. And if I want to know how much all of their tickets cost, then I'm going to go above here and I'm going to underline that every ticket costs $19. If there are 125 students and every ticket costs $19, I'll have to multiply that together. So I'm going to write it out. 125 students. And I'm going to multiply that times $19 per student. $125 times 19. I'll go ahead and use our standard algorithm to solve, since that's what we focused on in our last couple of lessons. When I use standard algorithm, first I multiply, in this case, the 9 times the 125. And then I do the 1, or 10 times 125. Starting with the 9. I have 9 times 5, which is 45. I'll place the 5 and carry the 4. Then I have to do 9 times the 2, which is 18. But up here I carried a 4, so I'm going to do 18 plus 4 to get 22. I'll place the 2 and carry the 2. Next, I'm going to do 9 times 1, which is 9, plus my 2 that I carried is 11. That means that 125 times 9 is going to be 1,125. Now, since I used these numbers that I've carried, I'm just going to go ahead and get rid of them. That way they don't confuse me once I go to my 10. For the 10, the 1 sits in my 10's place value, so that means the first answer that I write down is going to go here in this 10's place value, leaving the 1's place value open. Anytime I'm left with something open like this, I have to fill it up with a placeholder. A placeholder is a 0. And now I can just treat this like a 1 and do 1 times 5, 1 times 2, and 1 times 1. Starting with 1 times 5, I get 5. 1 times 2 is 2, and 1 times 1 is 1. Now that I have both of these partial products, I can go ahead and add them together. 5 and 0 is 5, 2 and 5 is 7, 1 and 2 is 3, and 1 and 1 is 2. Now, what did this end up telling me? Well, I was taking the total number of students and multiplying it by the cost of a ticket per student. So that means that my answer here is going to be the total cost for all 125 students to buy a ticket. My answer for A will be $2,375. And make sure you're showing all of your work on your paper as usual. Now that I have my final cost for all of my students, I can move on to B. In B, it says, if the group also purchases IMAX movie tickets for an additional $4 per student, what is the new total cost of all the tickets? It wants us to write an expression that shows how we got the new price and then solve it. Well, we already know the cost of their tickets to start. So what we're going to have to do now is we're going to have to figure out, well, if it costs another $4 for all 125 students, I'm going to have to do that 125 students times that $4, just like I did before. So I'll do 125 times 4. The 125 is the total number of students, and the 4 is the money it costs for an IMAX ticket per student. Now I will multiply. I get 4 times 5 to get 20, which is 0 and carry a 2, 20. Then I do 4 times 2 to get 8, plus 2 is 10. So I'll add the 0, carry the 1. 4 times 1 is 4, plus 1 is 5. So that means for all the students to attend the IMAX theater, in addition to going to the American History Museum, they're going to have to pay another $500 total dollars. But that's not what the actual question is. The question is, what is the total cost for them to go to the trip and to go to the IMAX? And it also specifically wants an expression. So the expression that we're going to have to do is that 2,375 plus 500. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to break both of these expressions down to make one expression. Here's what I mean. I'm going to take that 125 times 19, and I'm going to put it in parentheses to show that this is the first thing that we did. We figured out the cost of tickets for the students. The second thing we did is we found the cost for the IMAX tickets. So I'll take 125 times 4. Now, what we have to do to get our final answer is add these two together. So I'm going to add a plus in between these two equations, showing that I'm adding these together. This is the equation that you need to write on your paper. 125 times 19, inside of a parenthesis, it's very important that that's there, plus the 125 times 4. That will give us the total cost. So let me go ahead and add those together. That was 1,100, or sorry, that's my first partial product. That in fact was 2,375 plus 500. My total cost is going to be 2,875. So I'm going to go ahead and write down that total cost for the students. Remember that they wanted us to write both the expression and the solution. So I had to write out the equation and the answer. For number 2, I have another word problem. Number 2 says a carpet costs $16 a square foot. A rectangular shaped bedroom measures 14 feet long by 13 feet wide. How much would it cost to carpet the entire bedroom floor? Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and just draw a picture of this bedroom floor because I like to visualize it. So I'm going to imagine the bedroom is sort of a rectangle shape. And I know that it is 14 feet long and it is 13 feet wide. And I need to know how many total feet I have in order to figure out the cost of the floor. I know that 1 foot, and I'll kind of make a note of this, 1 foot cost me $16. And I know that because it starts by telling us that a carpet is $16 a square foot. So what I'm going to need to do is I'm going to need to find the area of this bedroom so I can find out the total number of feet. And then I'll have to multiply that by our $16 per foot. The equation to write that out, area is length times width. So I would have to do 14 times 13. And then once I get that answer, I'm going to have to multiply it times 16 to get my total cost. So 14 times 13 times 16. 2 steps in order to do this problem. All right, let's do the first one. I'll start with 14 times 13. 4 times 3 is going to give me 12, so I'll place the 2 and carry the 1. 3 times 1 is going to give me 3, plus 1 is 4. For my second partial product, I'm in my tens place value, so I am going to put this answer in the tens, leaving the ones place value open for my 0. And then I do 1 times 4 for 4, and 1 times 1 for 1. Now that I have that, I can go ahead and add up these two partial products. And what I've determined is I have determined the total square footage of this room, 182 square feet. Now that I know it's 182 square feet, I can take that 182 square feet and multiply it times times the $16 per square foot. Starting with 6 times 2, I get 12. I'll place the 2 and carry the 1. Then I have 6 times 8, which is 48. And I'm going to add 1 to it to get 49. I'll place the 9, carry the 4. 6 times 1 gives me 6, plus 4 is 10. There's my first partial product. My second partial product is in my tens place value. So I need a 0 in my ones. And I'll do 1 times 2 for 2, 1 times 8 for 8, 1 times 1 for 1. Now I can add these partial products together. I get 2, 11, 9, and 2. My total cost for the floor is going to be $2,912. Make sure you're showing all of this work on your page. All right, on to the back. We're on number 3 now. Number 3 says Jason buys a car and pays for it in monthly installments. Installments are payments. Each installment is $567 per month. After 48 months, Jason owes $1,250. So we need to know the total price of the vehicle. Well, when I look at the problem, I can see that he has been paying $567 per month, and he has paid that for 48 months. So let's figure out how much he's paid in order to figure out how much he owes for the total cost of the vehicle. So we'll take $567 that he's paying for this vehicle per month, and we'll multiply that times 48 months. So the 567 is the money he's spending per month, and he's spending it for 48 total months. We're going to go ahead and start with our multiplication. So we have 7 times 8. 7 times 8 is going to give us 56. I'll place the 6, and then I'll have to regroup the 5 there. Then I have 8 times 6, which is 48. And 48 plus 5 is going to give me 53. So I'll place this 3, carry this 5. Next, I'm going to do 8 times 5 to get 40, plus 5 is 45. Once I have both of those, I can go ahead and do my 4. The 4 sits in the tens place value, so I need a 0 in the ones place value. Then I'm going to do 4 times 7, which is 28. I'll place the 8 and carry the 2. Now, notice that I can tell the difference between these two because I'm using different colors. But if you're just using your pencil, I would have crossed out that 5 to show that I've already used it. Same for this other 5. Next, we're going to do 4 times 6, which is 24. 24 plus 2, which is 26. I'll place the 6 and carry the 2. Then we're going to do 4 times 5 to get 20, plus 2 is 22. I'll add these two partial products together. And I end up with 27,216. But I'm not done because all this number tells me is how much he has paid. So this is the amount of money he has paid. But if you read the problem, we know that he still owes $1,250. So in order to know the entire price of the car, we're going to have to add on the $1,250 that he has not yet paid. So I'm going to go ahead and add that on there to figure out the total cost of the car. I end up getting the number 28,466, and that is the total cost of the car. Make sure you're showing me all of your work on your page and then circling that final answer and labeling it so I know what it is. We're going to do the last problem here, the challenge question. If it's called a challenge question, then we can expect that it's maybe going to be a little bit more difficult, so we'll find out. Number 4 says, Betty saves $161 a month. She saved $141 less each month than Jack. The first question is, how much money does Jack save in 1 month? So if Betty is saving $161 a month and she is saving less than Jack, then that means Jack is going to be more. If Jack is $141 more than Betty, well, then we need to go ahead and take what Betty made, that's $161, which is Betty, and we need to now add on $141. This is that $141 more that Jack made. And we know that because Betty made less. If Betty made less, then that means Jack made more. I can go ahead and add together these two numbers and it should tell me Jack. All right, so it looks like we've determined that Jack makes $302 in 1 month. I'll go ahead and write that down. That's 1 month. Now, here it's getting a little harder. It says if Jack continues to save that same amount of money per month, how much money will Jack save in a 2-year period? Well, to know that, I'm going to need to know how many months there are in a year, because right now, this is how much money Jack makes in 1 month. So I'm going to write this down a little differently so that it's a little easier for me to understand what's happening. So 1 month equals $302. I need to know how many there are in 2 years. That's our question. Well, to do that, I need to know a little bit of information. I need to know how many months are there in 1 year. Well, 1 year equals 12 months. If that's the case, then 2 years would be double that, so 24 months. So what I'm gonna need to do is to find 2 years, I'm really finding 24 months. These two numbers, 2 years and 24 months, are equivalent or equal. So to find that out, I'll take how much Jack makes in 1 month and multiply it times 24. So that'll be our 302 times 24. To do 302 times 24, I'll start with the 4. 4 times 2 is 8. 4 times 0 is 0. And 4 times 3 is 12. Then I'll move on to the 2, which is in our tens place value. So our answer goes in the tens, which means we have this hole in our ones place value. And then I'll do 2 times 2 for 4, 2 times 0 for 0, and 2 times 3 for 6. I'll add together my two partial products. I'm going to end up with an 8, 4, 2, 7, which means that Jack has saved $7,248 over the course of a 2-year period. Make sure you're showing me all of these conversions on your paper. But that final answer is $7,248 saved. All right. That is all we have on tonight's homework, so be sure to check in next time for help with your homework sheet.